Hey, welcome everybody. How are you? Hope everything is well with you, and happy to report everything is going pretty well on this side. It If I'm in front of you tonight, it must be the first Wednesday of the month, and once again we have gotten together for the Friendship Ministries panel discussion. And I think because of where we are, Happy New Year is in order. Yeah, we've made it through to another year, 2023, a thing of the past in the history books, and we find ourselves in the first month, in the first few days of 2024. So, again, not only welcome to the broadcast, but welcome to a new year. So glad to have you with us. We are a non denominational church in Newark, New Jersey. Friendship Ministries, and we get together once a month to discuss various topics, not just church related things, but whatever's on your mind, things that you may want to talk about, things that are in the news, things that have come up, things going on in our communities. And in fact, we encourage you, and in fact, would love for you to please submit any suggestions that you might have for some future broadcasts. If you have an idea for something, let us know. You can send a message to friend@friendshipministriesinc.org. Once again, that's friend@friendshipministriesinc.org. And we'll see what we can do to get that together and put it on for you. We'd like to also encourage you, for those of you who are watching and joining us this evening, we don't want you to just sit and listen. We want you to participate. So hit us up in the comments if you have some questions or commentary on what we're talking about. And we would definitely love to hear from you. So class participation counts, if you remember that back from the school days. Well, once again, as we've said, we've entered into a new year. And we can always, at any point in time in our lives, choose to do something differently, to take a new approach to access our life or our condition or a set of circumstances, and figure out a new way of doing things and a new approach, and to decide to put into effect a different action, or as I said, a different approach. But for some reason or another, many of us, most of us, we wait till this time of the year to decide to reassess and look at things differently and see what we can change in our lives. We may have thought about it in November, thought about it in December, but our target date to get started is January in many cases. I think there are many industries that thrive on this. In fact, like the uh, equipment and training industry. We're gonna get in shape, so we buy this new equipment and everything so that we can get in shape. And for many of us, it turns out to be a clothes rack as the months dwindle by. But what are you thinking about for 2024? It is a new year, and we do tend to reflect on these things. In fact, some of the things that one of the things that I came across seems to indicate that we can owe some of this approach and methodology to the ancient Romans, as they used to honor the god Janus, which is where we get the word January from. And the symbol for Janus was two faces, one facing forward and one facing backwards, one looking toward the future and one reviewing the past, and then making choices and decisions on things to change and new approaches. And so whether that stems from that for you or not, that seems to be where it kind of historically comes from. And we want to talk tonight about what are some of the things you're thinking about? What are some of the things you're considering as we move into this new year, not only for you as an individual, but also for our churches? What directions are we taking? Which way are we heading? Well, we have some people here who are going to chit chat with us. And the first person I'd like to have join us in the conversation is a lady who's very special to me. I want y'all to be kind and pleasant to my wife as she joins us. Come on, welcome Stacy Williams to the broadcast. Hey, Stacy,
Hi,
how are you?
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Listen,
I'm okay.
you okay? Only okay? Well,
I'm
listen.
good.
Good. As we've said, we're starting a new year, and we as people, generally speaking, can't help but to consider and to think about you know how to change some things, look at some things differently. What are you considering for 2024? What are some of your thoughts on the new year? What are the things that run through your mind? What are some of the areas where you've got some maybe some hopes and some dreams, some aspirations of doing some things differently? And not only for yourself, but maybe you've got some visions and hopes for the church at large. Not necessarily friendship, but certainly it could be, but also the church at large.
Thank you. When I think about personally, I have the standard ones, if you will. Of course, you want to get more physically fit. I would love to draw closer and have a more consistent relationship with God. That's I don't know, a priority for me right now. The year 2024 is a big deal for me in terms of our anniversaries this year.
Hmm.
Thank God, if all goes well, we'll be celebrating 20 years. That's a big deal for me. So I thank God for that. But I think I mostly like to focus on my relationship with God. I'm in church all the time. You listen to the word all the time, but are you actually living what you've been listening
Mm,
to? And I would like to really
hmm.
focus more on that for this. For my church and churches as a whole, I know that a lot of people are not as committed as they once were. But
Mm.
I believe that the church is still vital. I believe that the church is still necessary. So I would like to see what I can do with the members of my church and at large of how we can bring church back to the forefront and the importance of it. That's all.
Interesting point. That's all. Interesting point
Oh,
with
sorry.
regard to the church, at large. I believe, you didn't say it specifically, but what came to my mind when you mentioned, getting folks to put the church more at the forefront and kind of getting back to some things, since the pandemic, it's changed the face of how we do church for a lot of people. And that's churches across the board, and I think that probably is a mission of a lot of churches, a number of churches, to kind of reassess how the membership sees some things, and to kind of respark, if you will, some of the involvement and activity that we once saw. Is that what you were referring to? Can you hear me?
You was frozen for a second. What did
Oh,
you
okay.
say?
Okay, I'm sorry. I was saying that, regarding the pandemic, that a lot of churches have run into this, and I think a lot are moving toward doing some things to possibly reignite some things. I was asking, is that what you were kind of referring to?
Absolutely. I do believe, even listening to or talking with friends different churches, I think we all are facing the same
Hmm.
concerns in terms of how are we living and making the church vital post pandemic.
Understood, understood. And I think some of the things you mentioned personally are also some things that many of us kind of struggle with and also desire to do. Let me ask you this. I know you have another appointment. Let me ask you this. So, you want to get closer to God. You want to do some things differently. What are some of the things you plan on doing to move in that direction?
One thing that I started is trying to be consistent in my personal reading.
Mm,
Oftentimes, because I love to read, I love to write, but oftentimes you get so busy and bogged down with just every day that you tend to make that the last on your
mm-hmm,
list.
Mm-hmm.
So what I try to do now is make it the first on my list. So before I start anything else, I try to make certain that I spend that time reading and studying my word as opposed to scrolling through social media. So if
Mm-hmm.
I can do 5 minutes on social media, I give that up and try to focus more on doing additional reading and studying of my Bible.
Understood. Understood. All right. And kind of what I like about that, and it's kind of the type of thing that I wanted to try to bring out is, as I said, a lot of people have some, aspirations and some goals. I like that you shared some simple steps, easy step, I think something that many of us could do to possibly address that goal if we have that goal, or even something similar. Just starting off by just dedicating a little time each day to do it a little more. And it's my experience that sometimes if we just do, because I think a lot oftentimes we've got these big, we think we got to do big moves to make big
Right.
changes, and oftentimes just little moves, they grow and they become habit,
Mhm.
and that just begins to really take a hold and make a difference. Cool. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you for
Stacy.
having me.
Absolutely. We thank God for my wife, and again, uh, simple things can sometimes be the difference. We don't always have to have these big, large, grandiose moves, but sometimes simple changes can make a difference. Thank God for my wife and also for her insights on tonight. Also, here we've got a couple of other folks who are going to chime in on the conversation. I'd like to welcome to the broadcast two folks, by no means strangers to the broadcast. Um, One is a wonderful man of God, a big inspiration and help to me in all sorts of ways in ministry. Glad to have him with us this evening. Please welcome to the broadcast the senior pastor at Friendship Ministries, Bishop Gerald A. Edwards. Hey,
Hey,
Bishop,
hey, Scott, how you doing?
I'm well, and yourself, sir?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Good, good. Also joining us for some further insight on this is another esteemed member of the ministry. Amen. One of my friends and colleagues, wonderful woman of God, singing and preaching woman of God. I thank God for her. Come on, help me welcome Miss Sheila Jackson to the broadcast. Hey, Minister J.
Good evening, Pastor. How are ya?
I'm well. I'm well. Happy New Year to both of you.
Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year to
Same
you,
to you.
sir.
Thank you, thank you. Although we brought the new year in together, as we traditionally do at Friendship. I don't know how many churches still have watch night services or whatever they may refer to them as, but we do, and I've grown right other accustomed to them. And it's a nice way to start the year in my mind, in my opinion. So, man and woman of God, as I alluded to in sort of my intro, this time of the year, traditionally, we reassess and we make these determinations. New Year's resolutions, as we often refer to them as. We're going to make these changes. We're going to lose weight. We're going to get in the gym, and nothing wrong with desiring to do some things differently. But why do you think we wait till January to do these things? Because certainly, you can do them at any point in time, if you make up your mind to do it. Why do we wait till the start of the year, Minister J?
I think it's largely just tradition.
Mm-hmm.
When we think of the beginning of the year, it's always implementing these New Year's resolutions, and it kind of like it's. I guess it's a stab to establish and set the tone for what you're going to do for
Mm.
the 12 months.
Right, right.
By and large, but by and large, a lot of times it's just a waste of time.
What do you say? It's a lot of fluff.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of talking loud and saying nothing, so to
Got you.
speak,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we'll sit there and we'll make this. it may not even be a long list to tell you the truth,
Mhm. Mhm.
but we come up with these things that we're going to implement and we're going to stick to it. We talk to ourselves, we encourage ourselves. This is what we really need to do, so on and so forth. And most of those things fall by the wayside.
Mm.
And the
Mm.
sad part is that we'll come back with the same list of things
Right.
that we're going
Right.
to implement
Right.
on the next year as
On the
to
next
say,
go round.
well, I didn't do it last year. Let's try doing it again
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah. So Bishop, what do you think? What's our motivation? Why do we January coming? I gotta do something different.
I think I think because we hear so much about New Year and new
Mm-hmm.
opportunities
Mm-hmm.
that we want to get in on the bandwagon,
Gotcha. Yeah.
and and we make these promises to ourselves that a lot of times we can't keep them. We don't
Mm-hmm.
keep them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's more or less, the flow of society and what
Mm.
society is talking about and what they're talking about on the news and talk shows about making New Year's resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, it's always good to make change if change is good.
Right.
It's
Right.
always good to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And but even if we make resolutions, if we don't carry them through, which most of us, I think, don't,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know, we should, continue to try,
Yeah.
even though it may not have come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
don't see anything wrong with it, uh, but I think most of the time it's just what they call spitting in the wind.
Yeah. 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 Understood. Understood.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I do agree. I think that because it is the start of something new. It's
mhm,
it's a new year, and that I think most of us sees that as the opportunity, since it's day one, fill in whatever year it might be, 1 twenty
mhm,
twenty four. It's new, it's fresh. This is a good point to try to revamp and reassess, and again, I agree. I don't see anything wrong with it. Um, I just wish that we would come to understand, if you really want to make a change, you don't have to wait to the new year. Whenever it settles in your heart and in your mind and in your spirit, that something needs to be done differently, go ahead, take that new approach. Go figure out what the steps need to be, and go ahead and implement the things, and and recognize, kind of as my wife alluded to, and as you guys have alluded to, change apparently eludes us because we do seem to fall short. So you really got to have that stick to itiveness, if you will, and you need a support structure if this is really something that you want to do. And many of us, and oftentimes it's something we need to do. We often joke about the people who want to lose weight. 'Cause most of us probably do need to, for whatever reason, other extenuating health. So it's a serious thing,
mhm.
and we should take the steps to do it. But we definitely seem to need to do something a little differently that we might, carry it through, so to speak. So tell me, both of you, um, what are some of the things that you think we as people um, should really consider if we're considering doing things differently? One, from a personal perspective. Let's start there. From a personal perspective, what are we as individuals, as we are considering, changing the way we live, changing the way? What are the things that we should think about? What are the things we should consider? What are some of the steps that we should take to maybe have it work this time?
Mm.
Well, for me, one of the things is um, your health.
Hmm.
I think that's really at the top of the list is
Hmm.
that we need to um, take an approach that I have to do everything within my power
Hmm.
to have optimum health.
Yeah.
Everything that's within our control.
Right.
We
Right.
realize that things happen in life, But if we're sitting there and we're eating a pound of bacon, or we're eating half of a cake, or
Hmm.
you know, I gotta have a bowl of ice cream every night. If we're
Right.
doing these things that we know are to our detriment, then we need to check those things,
Hmm.
and we need to approach things in a different manner so that we can maintain optimum health.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
Uh,
a biggie for me.
hmm and so and that's a good one. And as I said, I think most of us probably need to do something different with our health. Especially as we get older. I know probably one of the biggest issues for many folks is, many of us when we were younger, man, you could eat what you want, do what you want, had no effect on you. When I was in my teens, running up and down the street playing football, man, I burnt so many calories. I'd go in the house, eat like a horse, and you never gain a pound. I mean, you were just so active, and the metabolism was so whatever. But in so doing, you develop these habits, and as you get older, and the body shifts, and it ain't processing it like it used to.
Mhm.
It can be difficult to make these changes because you're so accustomed to doing it this way. Well, what do we need to do that we might um, just might fare better in trying to make the change?
Uh, and I agree with everything Minister Jackson said.
Hmm.
And we should focus on the self care because
Hmm.
as Christians, as ministers, as pastors, as leaders, we're always so busy taking
Yeah.
care of other people.
Hmm.
Sometimes we fail to take care of ourselves physically,
Yeah.
mentally, and emotionally,
Hmm.
and all those matter.
Yeah.
To keep you healthy. God needs us healthy in
Hmm.
order to help other people
Yeah.
to be what He desired for them to be. So that's important. And uh, only thing we can do to stay on track is to remind ourselves, you know, that these things are important to us,
Hmm.
and don't push them to the side.
Right. Right.
When we have all these things to do,
Hmm.
and you need to do something for your self care,
Right.
that also needs to be a priority
Right.
in your life. So we have to make priorities for our own self care.
Yeah, yeah. Good point. One of the things that comes to mind when you mention that, how we had to make it a priority, and a part of our ministry is serving others. But we got to take care of ourselves in order to be able to serve others. It reminds me of the safety lecture when you're on the airplane, and
Yes.
they talk about the mask dropping down, and one of the things they say, and it's not intended to be selfish, it's actually intended to be responsible, that if your neighbor is struggling, you put on yours first and then help them, because if you don't take care of yourself first in this instance, you might not be able to help them, or to help anybody else. And that's similar in my mind to the point you were making there, that if we don't take the time to take care of ourselves, we may not be around, or be around in a condition to be able to help
Hmm.
other people. I think one of the things that we can probably do, need to do, should do, especially if we've attempted these things before and haven't met with the kind of success that we want, is to, recognize that change can be difficult, and to enlist the help of some other people. If you got a couple of, and it doesn't have to be a large group, maybe it is a large group, but if you got a couple of boys or a couple of your girls who similarly want to do this, help one another. Let's team up. Let's hold one another accountable. I know, Bishop Edwards, we've done some men's classes, and one of the things that has come out in some of those classes is accountability partners, somebody to hold you accountable to what you said you were going to do, and but of course, done in love and everything else, and we're just trying to help one another get over that hump, get over the
Hmm.
finish line. And so I think, rather than struggling alone, I think sometimes it might be, worthwhile to enlist some folks who are going to be helpful. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's a struggle in itself sometimes to partner up with the right folks who are going to give you the right kind of support and the right kind of uh, help to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think paired up with with some of the right folks, it can be a difference maker. I think one of the other challenges, like with the weight thing, it's lifestyle changes, and sometimes it can be difficult when others in your household may not be enduring the need for those same changes. So it might be helpful if you can get your immediate family on board. Not that they necessarily have to make the changes, but help support you in making the changes.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps maybe the missus can cut down on some of them cakes and pies and pastries that they're baking, and maybe find some recipes that might again be helpful to you reaching your goals. And that doesn't necessarily mean, hey, the family can't enjoy some of those things, but that could be another thing. Just the whole family get kind of taking an active role in it in some way, shape, form, or another, and helping one another get through. Because I think in a lot of cases with the healthcare, even if a certain individual in the household doesn't need to lose weight, chances are you can still benefit from a healthier eating lifestyle and things, and so we all still tend to benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So what about the church? My wife mentioned something. The pandemic has definitely had an effect on how churches operate now. Bishop Edwards, we have had for a number of years now. I got a list somewhere for a number of years yet now. We've started off the year, with a theme, with an objective, and all. And this year's theme for friendship is reset. Tell us a little something about that. What does that mean? How did that come about?
Well, I was thinking. I usually start thinking about the theme around September, and I was thinking, and nothing was coming up, and then I think I was getting ready to go to the doctors or something, and the theme reset
Mm-hmm.
came, and sometimes so much happens during the year to people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not only sickness, but personal issues, relationship issues, financial issues,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, and they happen. And sometimes we get stuck
Mm-hmm.
in that situation, and we just keep replaying it over and over
Yeah.
in our minds, and then we start to live this, for lack of a better word, depressed.
Mm.
To walk in this depressed state,
Mm-hmm.
and we got the crocodile smile on, but behind it, we're suffering,
Mm-hmm.
and we're hurting, and this relates to self-care.
Yeah.
So at some point we got to realize that there's more to life than what we are going through
Mm-hmm.
at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
and then we got to make a reset so we can come out of that dump
Mm-hmm.
that we're in, and come out of that, as the young people said, after, as we used to say when we were younger, come out of that funk that we're in,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and begin to live a victorious life again.
Yeah.
Because our problems don't dictate who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Our relationship issues don't dictate who we are.
That's right.
But God tells us who we are,
Mm-hmm.
that we belong to him, that we're his sons and we're daughters, his daughters. We're the head, not the tail. You know, we're the lender, not the borrower. God tells us all of that. That we, as Janine said on Sunday, we're the apple of his eye,
Yeah, yeah.
and we got to believe that and step out of that situation that we're in, and reset our attitude, reset our minds,
Mm-hmm.
reset our way of thinking, and believe in the things that God is has said about us, and not the things that our situation is dictating to our mind.
Yes, absolutely.
So that was my mindset around all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And
And Minister Jackson, what do you think about that concept of reset?
I think it's wonderful. It hit home with me the first time that I saw it because, you know, it's kind of like what Bishop said. We're not our situation, we're not our circumstance. And as the bishop was speaking, I said, one of the things that came to my mind is that we live beneath our privilege
Mm,
when we allow our situations and circumstances to dictate how we're going to act, react, or we stay within the confines of, oh, my finances are this, my health isn't
mm-hmm,
this, my relationships. There's a full gamut of things that are going to um, bombard us.
mm-hmm.
Because I'm of the mindset that I say all the time. I say, you know what? No matter what, life happens.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you're going to get up today and, I don't know, your washing machine breaks, your refrigerator goes out, these are just, life happens.
Mm-hmm.
But how we handle it, how we react to it, that's what's important. And a lot of times, it gets the best of us, but it shouldn't be that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's only what we allow,
Yeah.
and we have to get to that point. As far as reset is concerned, is that we're not going to allow those things to dictate to how we live our lives.
Mm.
If
And
we're going to believe God,
yeah,
we're going
yeah,
to believe God.
yeah.
We read His Word, we study His Word, and we should be living our lives according to those principles. Sure, we have our moments,
Mm-hmm.
but when we look at the situation and circumstance for what it is, I am who God says I am. And with that mindset, when we reset and we can get that mindset that I am who God says that I am, these things will fall in place and we will live a victorious life.
Mm-hmm.
But it's getting to that place.
Getting to that place. Getting to that place. uh, Looking at some of the comments, our sister Lorraine, regarding you know waiting to the new year and things like that. She said exactly. We don't have to wait for the new year to change. We can change at any time. Also, uh, it's time to reset our goals and our relationships, and that by resetting our goals and relationships, uh, we can change our mindset, change our mindset, and that is an important thing. We're doing a book in church school or Bible study now, talking about the battlefield of the mind. And it's not, in my opinion, new revelation. I think that's something for those of us who have read the Word of God and studied the Word of God, experienced some things. We get to a point and recognize that a lot of what we struggle with is in the mind. We have thousands of thoughts that bombard our mind on a day-to-day basis. And one of the things I do believe that was mentioned in the book is, with all that we're hit with, and especially this era in which we live in. I mean, there's so much media of all sorts, and so we're bombarded on a daily basis with all sorts of things. You've got to choose. I mean, really choose to kick some things out of your mind, and
Yes.
focus on some other things. And when we don't kick some things out of our mind, it takes us down certain roads, potentially roads we really don't need to be on, and roads that don't positively impact us. That are leading us astray, or leading, or keeping us on the same track, and therefore we keep getting the same results, and we need to do something different. And I think that is an issue that we as people do have. Is oftentimes, we get into a rut, or we get into a cycle, and it's wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat. And it's become so habitual that we just do it. It's habit. And we may recognize that something needs to change, but I think in line with what both of you have said, we got to consciously, intentionally pause and hit the reset, because otherwise we just keep spinning around and spinning around and going in that same circle. We got to consciously hit the reset button and let some things go,
Yes.
and reboot and reset some things,
Yes.
and kind of start over again or start at a new place, and as I said, let some things go that we can just uh get a fresh perspective, and just start again. Start again. Um,
Yes.
all sorts of struggles, and my children say, and I know it's not exclusive to them, but their generation, life be lifing, and and I equate that to something Bishop Edwards has often said. You ain't having some troubles, just keep on living, because life be lifing. It's a part of the equation. We're going to have some struggles and some things in this life, and some things affect us in such a way that, man, it just becomes this vicious cycle, and as a result, we're not we're not making traction, we're not making progress, we're not living a life that we could have. And and even with the reset, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have problems anymore,
That's right.
but man, to have a fresh approach, and to get rid of some things, and move along, is so beneficial.
Yes.
So beneficial. Another comment comes through: facts, keep on living. and it's and it's true. Facts, keep on living. And but we do need to reset, and you guys still there?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
all
froze
right.
up on us.
Yeah, yeah. uh as a church, what do we do as a body of believers to try to perpetuate this thing, and not let it just be a slogan on the wall, but what do we do as leaders to try to you know have this thing take hold, manifest itself a little bit?
I think we have to lead by example. You know, what's the saying, that people will believe what half of what you
I
say.
know what you're saying.
I
Yeah,
can't get the
I
words
can't think
together,
of it either, but yeah, I
but
know what
it's
you're saying.
basically like you can say all these things, but I'm watching you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if we're uh, going to try to put forth this message to reset, I think as the leadership in the church is that we have to allow the membership, the
Mm-hmm.
visitors,
Mm-hmm.
anyone who crosses our path, is that they can see the change. You
Mm-hmm.
know, whereas maybe, just for example, that if I'm always on edge or I'm always this nervous Nelly and I got to be running here and I got to be running there, and then they can see a calm come over my life and
Mm-hmm.
that my approach towards things are different, my mindset is different. When people can see these things, because I can talk a good game all that I want to,
Mm-hmm.
but people need to see the
Yeah.
change in you.
Mm.
So I think that's where it should start. Let the change begin with you, and then it can others will follow suit. People see that example and say, "Listen, if God did it for Susie, Sally, Jane, Bob, Pete, and Harry, then
Mm-hmm.
God can do it for me."
Yeah.
So that's another to me. That's a lead by example thing.
Understood.
People need to see that.
See it.
Yeah, and I think also encouraging people,
Mm-hmm.
when you see somebody that, and a lot of times you can see when people are going through stuff or they're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with stuff, encourage them, instead of
Mm-hmm.
judging them, encouraging
Mm-hmm.
them to keep going forward. That trouble don't last always, and
That's right.
although you're going through now, brighter days are coming.
Yeah.
And you have to encourage each other, because I think we gain strength from one another
Mm-hmm.
when we encourage each other
Yeah.
to go on and to do better.
Yeah.
And not just stay in a certain place and wallow, but
Yeah.
encourage them to move on, and let them know when they're doing well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just don't pass by and say nothing.
Right. Right.
Tell them they're doing a good job.
Uh-huh.
That you're grateful. You see their progress.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
In their
Yes.
spiritual life.
Yeah.
Because you can see it when it starts
Mhm.
to happen,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
and tell them that.
Yeah.
I think that helps them have confidence in themselves and confidence in God.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, and
Absolutely.
uh, in line with that, Bishop, I think, a lot of times I think when we talk about these things and we mention, these things, people hear it and the mindset and approach is, you're right. You preachers should do that. You pastors should do that.
Mm. Mm.
When the call is, and certainly we should, but the call is that we would be one another's keeper. The scripture says iron sharpens iron. So this is a call for all of us who name the name of Christ to do better at supporting our brothers and sisters in their struggle and encouraging our brothers and sisters in our struggle. So
Yes.
those listening, it's not just for the preacher to do. We certainly should, as Minister Jackson, alluded to, lead by example and certainly, be at the forefront of promoting this kind of change in mindset. Um, but we all share a role and responsibility in trying to help one another along. Um, Another comment from our sister Lorraine: if we don't clear/clean our minds, it can become cluttered. That's why we have to hit the reset button to declutter, to reboot our mind. That's right. Clear some things out, get a fresh perspective. In
Yes.
indeed, I think we should also, as leaders in promoting these kinds of things, is also, sharing some insights. Perhaps, sharing, because I think sometimes, we as people try to make some changes or try to do some things differently, and somewhere along the way we kind of get a little stuck, like, I'm not sure how I do this.
Mm.
And so I think, by maybe sharing some insights, maybe sharing some of the things that we've experienced in our going, or some of the approaches that we're taking to, to do that very thing with us, might be a help to somebody. Oh, I didn't think about that.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Or, sort of as my wife suggested, you know, uh, the simple step of, uh, shifting my priorities and making reading my word or spending some time with God, the first 5 minutes of my day, or, and earlier in my day, or whatever the case may be. It can, because sometimes people may say, yeah, I need to do that more, but I can't see where to put it in. Well, a simple suggestion as to what I'm doing or what my approach is might not necessarily mean that that's what you should do, but it might spark some ideas that you didn't consider. Oh, maybe all I do need to do is make a simple change here. Let's give that a try. And I
Mhm.
think we also have to understand that, as we go through this year, it may be you may have to make changes along the way. You tried this and that didn't work too well, or you tried this until circumstances changed and now that's not working anymore because, I don't know, now you got to work later because there's some demands at the job or whatever. So, there's this continuous shifting that may need to occur in order to stay on track. And again, which brings us back to the accountability partners, and being encouragers of one another, to help one another through these things.
Hmm.
Yes,
And the
absolutely.
scripture, the scripture that we cited for reset
Yes.
was Isaiah. Forget about the former things and do not dwell on the past.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes situations bring life changing things.
Absolutely.
And we talked about changes earlier, uh, but we can't let that deter us or stop us from serving God the way uh, we should.
Hmm.
He said, "Don't dwell on the past. Don't dwell on those things that has happened.
Right.
Don't dwell on that bad relationship. Don't dwell on
Mm.
the argument you had with Sister Sue, or don't dwell on what Sister Sadie or somebody else said.
Hmm.
But move forward. And forget that stuff behind. Leave it back there. If somebody else want to pick it up, let them pick it up. But you've moved forward.
Right.
You've gotten out of the way.
Hmm.
And God said He's doing a new thing.
Yes,
He's going to do something new in your life.
yes,
That's old stuff that you
Right.
have put behind you.
Right.
Now let Him do that new thing
yes,
in your life.
yes.
And that's an interesting point. I think a lot of times we can get in the way of the progress, and go ahead and allow God to. We say we believe in God, we trust in God, but I think that's a struggle for many of us, letting go and
Mm-hmm.
letting Him do what we say we know He
Yes,
can do.
yes, yes,
Letting
Mm-hmm.
go and letting Him, especially in those situations where we don't have, God has given me some mental ability. I can think through some things. He's given me some strength. I can physically do some things, but there's some things I just got to let go. Yeah, God needs to handle this,
yes,
Mm-hmm.
and
yes.
it can be difficult for us, especially, uh, I think, when you're a thinker, especially when you are someone who likes to jump in and get your tools and fix it. A lot of times we want to jump in and do that, and
Mm-hmm.
not allow uh, God to do what he can do.
That's
Mm-hmm.
right. That's right.
Indeed, indeed. Well, folks, we got about 2 minutes left, probably a minute and some change.
Ooh,
So, uh, Sheila, well, closing comments, well, thoughts on the new year you'd like to leave the people with, or some other uh, points regarding our topic of reset.
well, my closing thoughts are just to kind of piggyback off what you said, is that we have to let God do what He is capable of doing. And we have to get out of the way because, sometimes we feel as though we put God on time constraints and we
Yeah,
feel as though it should be done,
yeah.
you know. Well, I've been waiting for this for 6 months or a
Mhm,
year, whatever. It
mhm.
could be even longer than that. And we feel like we have to put our hands in it.
Yeah, yeah.
We need to help God along. God does not need, as a matter of fact, just like you said, we get in the way sometimes. We get
Mhm.
in the way of our own progress. So I think what we need to do is get to a place, if we're going to reset, stand still,
Mm.
stand firm in your faith, continue to trust God, and continue. The word says that my sheep know my voice, and a stranger he will not follow.
Mhm.
When you hear the voice of God, adhere.
Yeah.
Don't be rogue, and you got to get out here and you got to do it your way, because
Yeah.
you know what, it'll end in disaster.
Mm.
So reset. As it's been said, declutter, clear out your past failures, your disappointments, the things that didn't go your way. Let's all wipe the slate clean
Mhm.
and begin again.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Minister Jay. Bishop Edwards, closing thoughts.
Yep. I like that phrase, wiping the slate clean, because God wipes our slate clean.
Hmm.
You know, if it's something we've done and or somehow transgressed, all we have to do is to ask God to forgive us in earnest,
Hmm.
and He will wipe the slate clean.
Clean, yeah.
Yeah, but in this season of resetting, let us move into the places that God is doing new things
Mm.
with us, and let us forget those things that are behind us, and actually see, because another part of that scripture, he said, God said, can't you see it? Can't you
Mm.
see that? Let
Hmm.
us look for the new things and
Yeah.
move toward that, instead of always looking back, expecting things to be the way they were.
Hmm.
You know, like Barbara Streisand said, memories lie at the
Yes.
corners of the
That's on my
mind,
mind. Yes. Yes.
misty
Well,
Misty
watercolored memories
watercolored memories
of the
of the
way
way
we
we
of the way
were.
we
were.
were.
And
Yeah.
our
Mm-hmm.
operative phrase is the way we were.
Were.
We're not that anymore,
Hmm.
but we're
Hmm.
moving into new territories, and the reset will take us there, without a whole lot of stress and a whole lot of fighting and kicking against the pricks to get
Mm-hmm.
there,
Mm-hmm.
instead of trying to drag ourselves back to where we were and where we've moved from now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, man and woman of God, I thank you for your insight. Want to share one more comment before we go. Sister Lorraine says, wonderful discussion and wonderful panelists. Thank you for bringing such a great presentation on tonight. Thank you all for sharing.
God
Amen.
bless you.
And
Thank you.
I think a wonderful way to start the new year. Um, we've all got some changes we need to do and to make. And as I alluded to on New Year's Eve, sometimes even if you don't want to reset,
Mm.
some things in life cause a reset, and
Mm-hmm.
you've got to do some things differently or look at some
Yes.
things differently. And
Yes.
and while it may be painful, because it may be new territory for you, as I said then, new territory, new circumstances, but it's the same God, and
Yes.
so if we allow Him to take hold, and sometimes in those circumstances, maybe it's best because oftentimes we don't know what to do or how to move forward given these new set of circumstances. That's a perfect time to just let God do
Mm-hmm.
do His
Yes.
thing. They trust in
Absolutely.
God, and I think
Absolutely.
I can't help but wonder sometimes if that ain't God's intention. Because if it was something else, you'd get your hands all in it and this, that, and the other. But this is something you can't control, and so trust in me, and sometimes it kind of forces you to
Mm.
trust in Him, and
Yes.
let God show you some things you said you read and you knew. Let me show you some things. I will
Mm-hmm.
do a new thing. The old things have passed away, behold, some things gonna become new.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to how these things manifest and what we see. And I'm definitely going to try to do my part from the pulpit, as well as walking the aisles in direct contact with the people of God, to try to
Mm-hmm.
encourage folks to reset and to hang on to God. Thank you both for being with us.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. You guys don't see them, but thank the media team for being behind the scenes and running some things for us. Grateful to all of you who have joined us on today and have left some comments and everything. Once again, hey, remember, if you've got an idea for a topic, please send it to us, friend at friendshipministriesinc.org. Would love to try to put something together for you. Thank you again for being with us. Once again, Happy New Year to you all. Stay safe, keep God first, and I believe some things are going to change for us. Hope to see you next time around. God bless and good night.
God bless.